A shock for many, of course, and this really was a major shock within royal circles. What are we talking about, as ever? Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the very heart of London. Thank you as ever for your company today. Hope you're all keeping well, fine and dandy one and all. And of course, keep it across the footage that we're bringing you as it happens. This is an evolving story. As you can imagine, sad demise, of course, of our wonderful Queen Elizabeth II. And the story really is just historical. I mean, when you think about it, we are all living through history. I don't know if you saw any of the session yesterday with, of course, His Royal Highness King Charles. I mean, wasn't it fascinating to see the workings of that within the room and how it's all put together? You have to remember, of course, that nobody's seen this in over 70 years. Cameras wouldn't have been allowed in at that level. There would have been some pictures, of course, but to actually see it all in action, it just proves the modern world that we're all living in, doesn't it? Fascinating stuff, I'm sure you will agree. And as I stated on some of the channels that I was speaking on, of course, yesterday, I did point out that I think it's ridiculous that we're trying to regress our wonderful history in any country, really, you know, because every country has history, whether it's good or bad. We learn from it, we move forward, we don't necessarily have to replicate it, but it is our history. And I figured, you know, when you think about the educational system, when they want to pull that back, you think, look at this rich tapestry of wonderful royal history that people apparently now are not interested in. The ratings prove otherwise, as ever. Back as ever, though, to your breaking royal story of the day. This particular image shocked the world. Oh yes, yesterday afternoon, for the very first time in over 2 years, we saw these four people. That's right, the Prince and Princess of Wales and Meghan and Harry. Now, a lot of people are asking, well, how did this come around? Interesting story in itself. And as ever, let me explain. As we now saw, there was the familiar walkabout, which is very daunting, I think, for anybody, particularly when you're suffering such a tragic loss. If you saw those poignant words that the Prince of Wales wrote about his grandmother, truly, truly moving. And you can just see exactly how much that she meant to him. And I love the nod, the fact that he basically, you know, was saying how grateful he was for the time that he had to spend with her and how that she developed him and all that sort of stuff. Truly, she did. And you can see the stoicism in him as he's wandering around and, of course, meeting members of the public. A lot of people are saying, is this the thaw? Is this the ice? Well, let me explain the background to that. It was suggested by senior courtiers that this would be a very nice thing to do. Now, as we know, if you study the footage, you can see as ever that Prince William and Catherine are magnanimous in their sort of approach to the whole situation. This is not a time for petty squabbles. This is a time, of course, for grief and for remembering a remarkable lady who ruled upon us for 70 years. It's interesting, isn't it? Because Queen Elizabeth was all about family, dedication and staying together. And seemingly it's this lady that has now brought these people back together. However, people are saying, is this a thaw? Is this those two brothers back on track? Well, let me tell you, as a person who was there, you know, at that photo call, what was interesting was, how can I put this nicely? Yes, Harry and William seemingly wanted to get on, but really there was no sort of body language between the two ladies. And I mean that in the nicest way. Meghan was absolutely petrified. You know, whatever you think about what you saw on screen, she was not comfortable at all, clinging to Harry even more so than ever. And it was a risky thing to do, you know, let's be honest. Anything could have broken out, but because it's a British, you know, group of people, we are more respectful. And of course, we wouldn't want to bring shame and, you know, discourse, shall we say, in a delicate situation like that. But Meghan herself, there's no two ways about it. She knows exactly what the British people truly think of her. It's going to take a long time to build that back. Do I believe these two people are going to be pushed back into the royal family? I think what's going to be interesting is whether Harry can be persuaded to drop the book. That's the big pivotal moment, in my opinion. Now, for William and Catherine, of course, they're going to be incredibly busy, pushing ahead as senior members of the British monarchy and forging ahead as ambassadors globally of our wonderful British monarchy. For Harry and Meghan, as Prince Charles stated yesterday, they're building their lives overseas. For a moment in time at least, and for the unity of our wonderful former Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, even she, while not here, has managed to do the almost impossible. As ever, when I know more, you'll know more. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.